everybody, it's Valerie from Stampin' with Valerie, and I thought I would try a new thing and just come on Sunday early afternoons and do a little bit of stamping, because why not? It's a nice day to do some stamping, and I know we all enjoy it. I'm going to share my video here. While I'm sharing my video, I want to tell you that this event that is coming up, it'll be in October on the 24th, but we are Ingrid and I, one of my team members, we are actually have our deadline for signing up is this week. So it's on Thursday the 1st, and what you're going to get is a holiday swag bag with $40 in current products. We are going to do 10 pre-recorded videos for the projects, and then during the live event on October 24th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We are going to switch on and off, and she's going to do some lives. I'm going to do some lives. We're going to share some amazing little demonstrations with gift wrap ideas, scrapbook page ideas, and we're going to give away some prizes. So this is an event you do not want to miss. So make sure you sign up and pay by Thursday so we can order the product, because we're going to put everything together, your card kits and stuff, and mail them to you. So we have to have time for that. So anyway, I just wanted to remind you of that in case you have forgotten. So today we are going to use the Wrapped in Christmas stamp set, and we are going to incorporate, well, actually the main part of the card is going to be just this one sentiment: Christmas blessings to you and yours. And we're going to use some of the Poinsettia Place Designer Series paper. Now, I don't know if you've seen this paper, but look at how gorgeous this is. Now, I don't have the Poinsettia Place stamp set, but because you know how much I love fussy cutting, I'm gonna show you how to fussy cut some of these fantastic flowers with all of that great foliage. And here's the reverse side of that paper. Isn't that gorgeous? This is one of my favorites, and we're gonna use this today, is that wood grain. So the first thing we'll get started with is we're actually gonna cut some of that wood grain paper, and I'm gonna show you the card, and then we can get started with all the fussy cutting and putting everything together. So now the card I make is not going to be exactly like this, because I'm not cutting the exact same flowers out. They're a little bit different because I've already pre-cut some of them. Otherwise we'd be here for 2 hours fussy cutting. So this is the card. What do you think? I think it is absolutely gorgeous. So I used very vanilla cardstock because that coordinates with this Poinsettia Place, and it works perfectly. So let's get started with getting this card ready. So I already have a very vanilla card base. So I am just going to actually, because I don't remember, I did this last night, if you can believe this, at midnight. I'm never up that late, but I just could not sleep, and I was like, let me just make a card. So this is 5 inches by 3 3/4. So that's what we'll cut our smaller piece of very vanilla at, is 3 3/4 by 5. So let's just put this end in here. Let me see how wide this is. Not quite 5, so we'll actually cut it 5 inches this way, and then we'll cut that other piece. Otherwise, I'm cutting all of this extra down, and I don't want to cut all of that down. And we'll do it at 3 3/4. And then our other piece is going to be, I believe, 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. Let me just measure just to make sure. Yep, that's 4 1/2. So the other side is 3 1/2. So we'll just take that Designer Series paper, cut it at 3 1/2. And I want that wood grain going right to left. So the 4 1/2 side is your longer side, obviously. So these will layer on here just like this. Perfect. All right, so we've got our card base, we've got our extra little paper, Designer Series paper, and our very vanilla piece. Now let's do some fussy cutting. So the first thing I did was, like I said, last night when I was up at midnight, I did some extra fussy cutting, and look at all that detail. Now I'm gonna do one more little piece fussy cutting. Here's another one. And I'm just going to do this little edge piece and show you how I do it. Now, I don't always incorporate everything, but because I want to show you how to do this and get these little extra pieces, we're going to incorporate actually a lot of this. What I first need to do is just cut this off so it's a little bit straight, because I want this to be a corner piece. Now, because I cut that straight and this one little berry is cut off, we're not going to include that little berry in there. We're just going to cut around it. And the first thing you need to know when you're cutting these extra skinny little pieces is it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to show you how to fix it if it's not. And I'm going to purposely leave a little of that very vanilla around it in some spots to show you how we can fix that. And always just cut little chunks off and let them drop, because the more paper you have around your scissors, sometimes the harder it is to cut those delicate little pieces. And now, like I said, I'm not going to do everything on this little piece. So I might take some of those pine boughs and cut them out later if we need to add some extra in there. I might not add them all to this image. And when I was cutting out my other things, like right here, this little piece that's sticking out, I'm just cutting that off. I don't need that little piece. And now look, you have that gorgeous little piece right there that we can use. And yes, you have to be very careful, and you definitely have to have some sharp scissors. So paper snips are your friend. The Stampin' Up! Paper snips are fantastic. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut around those pine boughs a little bit. I'm not going to actually do all the detail yet. I'm going to show you that in just a second. We're just going to go ahead and cut around these. And actually, I do think I will keep all of these pine boughs because they're so pretty. And they're really easy once you've done one or two of them. Trust me, they are not hard at all to deal with. I'm going to cut this little extra piece off here. If we need an extra pine bough, I can cut one out of there. Because I'm going to show you when we put the card together, you might need some extra little pieces just to add a little bit of extra fluff. And that's something I love to do. Now, right here, where they've got these 4 or 5 little sprigs sticking out, totally not going to worry about those. I'm going to cut those right off. I don't need those. Don't need those little sprigs. And of course, you already know, move your paper, not your scissors as much. And now we're coming to the very end of this, and we're going to cut out the extra little berries on this side too. So what I'm going to do, because for me, being right-handed, when I'm at the end and I don't have a lot to hang on to, I try to cut out the right side first, because I always am a little, I don't know what I say, rougher, but it just works out better if I cut the right side off first and then go back and cut this left side. I seem to have a little bit more control that way, and I don't end up cutting off my little sprig. Now, let's say I did cut that little sprig off. Guess what? You can just glue it underneath the flower somewhere. It's okay. And if you don't want to cut out all these little sprigs and you want to just cut the flowers, that's fantastic too. It doesn't matter. It's however far you want to go with the fussy cutting. I'm just going to cut that one little berry off right there. We don't need that little berry. You can pick and choose which parts you want. That's what's great about it. Now, kind of hold on to it, and if you're having trouble holding on to it, use a pair of tweezers. So I can hold on to this, that pine bough, and that with the tweezers, and it works perfectly. So I'm just going to cut around this side here, and those tweezers are holding this steady for me, so it makes it much easier. And then, whoops, this is probably going to rip right here because that little piece does not want to stay very well. So we're going to see what happens. Hi Lois, hi Donna, thanks for joining. Sorry, I just had a chance to look up at the screen and see who was watching. I appreciate you coming on and checking out my new Sunday stamping that I'm going to be doing. Now I don't really need that little piece sticking out there, so I'm going to cut that off. All right, now that we've got that, and like I said, that might rip only because it's right here on the edge and it's bending a lot, so we'll see what happens. So the thing you want to do with these pine boughs is where you see some of that extra very vanilla in there, just cut little triangles out. If you cut a little bit of the pine bough off, no big deal. There's lots of it there. Just cut some little triangles out so it gives it a little bit of that look of a pine bough. Because then you have some little, a little bit of dimension there. And if they don't want to come off, just bend them back, snip them. It's that easy. People, you know, some people just think it's, I'm going in and out, like with stuff like this. It's not. It's just cutting little triangles. It's just cutting little, snipping little pieces, but it makes it look more realistic. And like I said, you know how much I love doing this. Hi Sharon, how are you? Thanks for joining. We're just doing this last little bit of fussy cutting because I did most of it last night, because for some reason I was a night owl last night and I usually am not. Got that one little piece right there that I bent back a little bit, and then I'm just going to snip off. And look at that, you got that little, lots of dimension. And now when you get one like this little piece right here, there's lots of extra berry vanilla, so it's super easy. But you have a lot of little tiny pine needles poking out once you trim these. And that's okay. Again, makes it look more realistic. Doesn't have to be perfect, because who's going to look at it and say, you cut half of that pine needle off? They're not going to care. They're just going to be amazed at the amazing job you did fussy cutting it. Because they probably don't even realize how simple this process can be if you have the right scissors and a steady hand. Now, obviously, this is not for someone who has issues with shaky hands, because you may end up snipping your fingers or something. So if you want a card like this and you have shaky hands, have someone help you. Don't try to do it on your own. And if you are just scared of fussy cutting, just try it. Find some old designer series paper. Start with cutting things that are not as detailed to begin with, and you'll get better at it. Promise, practice makes perfect. Done. All right, so now we can start putting our card together. So we've got lots of flowers to choose from. We've got our extra pine boughs and all of that. Now, I did promise you I was going to show you, and I will definitely do it with this one, and I'll do it with the other ones. So now, where I told you I had that extra little very vanilla around these stems, Stampin' Blends, soft suede. Just take your Stampin' Blend and color in those little areas. It looks like that you literally just cut exactly on that little line, and you cut it perfectly. Now you can take the edge of it, like to go around the edge of the flowers, and some of the edge of this you can kind of just use the edge of it, but sometimes you have to lay it down when you get these little tiny pieces and kind of go around them a little bit. And right here where I cut that off, I'm just going to color that in a little bit. Going to go around this because I cut a little bit of that off around the flower. And it just fills that in. How fantastic is that? Now, if you don't have the Stampin' Blends, it makes me sad because you need some Stampin' Blends. But if you have a set of the neutrals markers and you have the soft suede, you can use that brush tip too. So I'm going to go around a couple of these because I didn't, looks like I did that one last night. I might have done all of these other ones last night, so it would save some time. It looks like I did. So anyway, that's a fun little tip. And you can use dark or light, it doesn't matter. Whoops, I'm taking this end off thinking that's my other one. All right, so just fold your card base in half. And again, this is very vanilla. I think people overlook very vanilla a lot and they go right for the Whisper White, but very vanilla is gorgeous. It's perfect. And you can really make some gorgeous cards with it. Get your Memento ink, and then I already have my sentiment. Christmas blessings to you and yours. If you're just joining, the Wrapped in Christmas stamp set is where I got this sentiment from. Yes, Sharon, I love the blends too. Make sure you ink it up. I think I need to re-ink my pad here. That's why I'm really pressing down on it. And I'm going to put this at the bottom of this piece of designer series paper. I'm going to, sorry, I might have just stuck my head in there. Going to put it right at the bottom, center it. And then we're going to work around that. And what I mean by work around that is, like on this card, you can see where my bows just come right down kind of around that sentiment. And that's what I want to do with this one too. Grab your Stampin' Seal Plus, your Tombow glue, whatever you're using for your adhesive, and center this onto your piece of Very Vanilla. I must have cut this the wrong length. It's not quite where I want it. So I'm going to move it over to the left, and I'm going to cut just a little piece of that Very Vanilla off. Just so it's looks a little more even. Then we'll add a bunch, and when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch of dimensionals to the back of this, because I tried it just doing my normal one on each corner, one in the center here, one in the center here, and then one here, and it was just so floppy, I guess is the word you can call it, that I just, when I started putting all of the flowers on it last night, I was like, it's just not enough. So I just literally peppered the back of it with dimensionals. And then we're going to do just some Tombow glue for some of the flowers, and then some of them, at least one main flower, will be up on dimensionals. All right, so let's put this onto our card. And throwing that up on the dimensionals obviously gives a little bit extra to show you where that other piece of Very Vanilla is. And you could, if you wanted to, you could go around this and sponge it with some crumb cake or soft suede. That would be pretty, but I wasn't really wanting to do all of that today. So now this one is going to fit up in this corner on the left this time instead of over on the right. So like I said, our card's going to be just a little bit different. But let's just play with the layout just a little bit. And then we've got this other one that's got an edge piece, which I did 2 edge pieces on that one too. And I love it when I add them on and that little bit of pine bough or something hangs off the edge. So now we need to figure out which one of these fits better on the front and which way we want it to go. This actually fits pretty good only because it comes down right here into the center of our sentiment, which I kind of like. But let's see how this one is. I don't know, I think I kind of like this one better. It's got a little bit more to it. So I think we're going to use this bigger one. I'm going to grab that glue, and what I do with this is I don't put glue on all these little pieces. I just kind of put glue on the main portion of this, because if you glue it all down, it kind of takes away from some of that extra the little pieces that stick up a little bit. Now I am going to glue this down right here because that's that piece that I thought was going to rip, but it didn't. So let's just glue it down now so it doesn't rip. Put that up in that corner of that Very Vanilla. And glue it down. And then all these little pieces are not glued down, so that gives it a little bit of dimension. Do the same with this one. Glue down the main part of it, but not all of the extra little things. And make sure you don't go too far over if you've got that extra stuff hanging off, because you don't want it having to cut it off when you try to fit it in the envelope. So make sure it just comes to the edge of your card, or even a little bit inside the edge of your card. Now this one, we are going to use some dimensionals on it. And I do like that that comes down like that. Right in that center, that flower is perfect. So just put some dimensionals on the back of this. 3 or 4, however many you feel that it needs. I'm gonna go with 4. Now, I did not add any bling to this card because I kind of love how it just kind of shows the beauty of those flowers without adding any bling to it. Now, I do want to add maybe another little sprig of a pine bough sprig. So I'm just going to cut this one on the edge. And you do cut that little stem out because you need that little piece to glue under the flower. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because you can go back in and color that in if you want to. Just color that stem in. Snip out some of those little triangles like we did with the other ones. And then once you get those snipped out, then we can glue it in. Well, thank you, Lois. I appreciate that. Hi, Sue. How are you? Thanks for joining and watching. I truly appreciate it. Actually, I'm going to do just a little bit on this side too, just because it's kind of looking lifeless over here. All right, so take the back of that, just put a tiny bit of glue on that stem. You don't need a lot. Then I'm just going to kind of shove it right underneath these berries on this side. And then take your pick tool and just poke underneath there and push that stem down to make sure it's stuck to the paper. And then look at that. How pretty is that? It's like perfect. Now I have an extra little flower here, and I actually feel like I might need to add it. So I'm just going to put a dimensional on the back of that. Doesn't necessarily need it, but I'm going to add it anyway because it's super cute. And then we'll put that one on a dimensional too. I don't think I need anything coming out from underneath that because it's already got those pine boughs there. So that is my stamping for today's Sunday stamping. What do you think? Like I said, a lot of fussy cutting for this one, but the card I think turned out just gorgeous. And each card is going to be a little bit different because that sheet of designer series paper, I mean, look at how many flowers are on there. And you've got some that are exactly the same, like this one and this one are the same. But every time you cut them out, you've got all those edge pieces, you've got different things. So your cards are going to turn out all a little bit different. So I hope you enjoyed today's Sunday stamping. It was my first time doing a Sunday stamping. So thank you for joining me. I hope you are able to join my virtual Wonder of Christmas virtual stamping with myself and Ingrid. And like I said, the day for that, for the cutoff for that is on Thursday. So make sure you sign up. I will include a link when I post this, when I post the photos of these. I'll include the link for the Wonder of Christmas virtual stamping, as well as a link to my blog post, so you can check out the blog post and get some more information here about this card. So I appreciate you joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you. Bye.